companies like Cengage Learning are thinking about developing effective curriculum solutions and learning tools, there has to be a model that allows standardization, but also choice in the classroom, whether that's online or not. The second one is that I think we've proven for the last 5 or 10 years that merely replicating a textbook is not sufficient, and that as we think about, again, barriers, one of the barriers, one of the opportunities is to really take advantage of more of a two-way communication that you could never do with some of, pre-technology, with the print medium. And then the last one is business models. There's, whether it's the content side of the business, the software side of the business, there's been a lot of efforts trying to provide new technologies with old business models. And until that business model changes, I think that will continue to be a barrier in the industry to the adoption.
Jack, I want to give you a chance to talk, thank you. I want to give you a chance to talk a little bit about the hardware. Hardware does not seem to be the problem. The Moore's Law phenomenon in terms of the platforms that enable some of this, we're going to have Felice and Sean talk about this in a moment later. The hardware infrastructure is not the problem for us, is it?
No, from a technology perspective, all the tools are there. I mean, you look at how seamlessly technology is integrated into our everyday lives. We're here at CES, the Consumer Electronics Show, and when you're using your consumer electronics, you're not thinking, oh, I'm using technology, right? Oh, I'm reading a newspaper, and now I'm going to go read a technology version of my newspaper on my computer. It's just part of your life. Whereas I think right now in education, we're trying to we got to put technology into education. We're trying to put technology into education, but we're not. It should be a seamless part of it. It has to complement what teachers are doing today. It's got to be part of what, we've talked to teachers, we've talked to students, they can't just go from 180 degrees from one way to now using technology. It can't be, we're going to have a technology lesson, and now we're going to have a non-technology lesson.
So, Felice, I'm going to move us along quickly. We're under a little time. We want to get the audience in us. How far have we come, and what are the things that have impeded us, Felice? And then Sean.
I think it's mixed how far we've come. I think one of the interesting things and one of the most exciting things about this time, this moment in time, is that we can almost view it as a renaissance. And I think one of the challenges we face is that if we were all to sit back and define a learning environment and ask ourselves, and as educators, how we would define that environment, and then really scan that environment and try to determine whether that is how we are engaged in education. That oftentimes we treat education as a single transaction. It's a course, it's an application, it's a piece of technology. And I think that the exciting thing about this point in time is that we have this opportunity to fully immerse ourselves in true learning environments, that we can integrate those environments, that we can treat them as a life cycle rather than a course or a grade or a movement that you have to recreate yourself once you leave K-12 segment onto higher ed. So I think we have an opportunity to really look not just at the applications, not just at the technology, not just to look at the content we're delivering, but to actually ask ourselves and ask our students to engage in a learning environment. And that's where I think it does get interesting.
All right, I'm going to keep us moving, so I'm sorry to cut you. Sean?
In terms of how far we've come, while it's easy to say, I think that the computing revolution has been around for 4 decades, it did attack the things in education from my perspective that you would think it would attack at the beginning. It attacked things like scaling student records. It attacked things like scaling financial aid.
A lot of the operational and managerial.
Not unlike other industries, it attacked the ERP type things that you might think it would have attacked. In latter days, started to attack the learning environment, and I think it was in 1999 that Blackboard was founded, in that time frame. So in a very, very short period of time, a decade, 1/4 of this 4-decade span that you're talking about, Casey, as Bill mentioned just a second ago, learning management systems have become ubiquitous. I don't know of a campus or a campus environment that doesn't have one today. So that's a lot of progress in, I would say, a very, very short period of time. What are things that are standing in the way? Integration into workflows is the way I'd characterize what Jack said just a moment ago. And that is, there has been a way of doing things for literally hundreds of years, and now we're asking people to do new things. So in our case, what we're trying to do right now is integrate with learning management systems so that we're integrated with the new ways of doing things. And it's not that easy, you know. So changing workflows and integrating with workflows is one area that I think needs to be worked on. That has to do with standards and standard ways of doing things.
And I'm going to stop you right here because I'm going to move us into that question as well.
Good.
My sense is that the campus community now has a sense of semantic remorse. 3 of you mentioned learning management systems. And if you think about the semantic remorse is management systems. Felice, you began some of this conversation by saying learning environments. And there is a conversation underway both in K-12 and higher ed, as well as the corporate sector, to talk about learning environments, learning platforms. Other than sort of talking about the need to do something different or something better, each of you for a moment, and only for a moment, let's be specific about what are the attributes that we need in these next generation learning environments as opposed to management systems, if in fact you believe my sense of semantic remorse is a reasonable statement about where we are and where we're going. I'm going to let you lead on this, Felice.
I want to lead by almost not an allegory, but using it as an actual case study. In Texas, we had a conversation with the K-12 system. What they had were teachers all over the state, inconsistent levels of teaching, inconsistent levels of professional development, inability to deliver digital content in one environment where teachers, students could access it, could learn with it, could use it both in their academic networking, their courses, and maintain it over the life of their academic career in terms of college and career ready. Fast forward, it's now 2011, they're on the Epsilon platform. We've got all of the professional development in the state of Texas on the platform. You have teachers in rural areas of Texas that were teaching subjects that were not their main content areas, isolated alone, now interacting with subject experts, with people from across the country, but most importantly, with their other teachers across the state and developing curriculum together. You have students from across the state developing e-portfolios, moving seamlessly between their course, their class, their e-portfolio, their notes online, other students, peer groups moving into their newspaper clubs, student government. You have teachers forming networks with teachers in other states, collaborating on these programs. They shouldn't have to keep moving out into different parts of the world to do this. It is integrated.
Sean, I'm going to give you a chance to also talk about environments.
I think the integration piece is a big piece, as I mentioned earlier. There's no reason why content shouldn't be integrated into the learning management system in a ubiquitous and seamless sort of a way. There's no reason why faculty members shouldn't easily be able to connect their lesson plans and their syllabi and the types of ways that they organize their courses to the actual content that the student uses. And not just the textbook, a whole variety of different types of content. And that hasn't been so easy up to this point in time.
Okay. Bill? And then Jack?
I would support the integration, although I think I would put a slight twist on the integration. I don't know that it needs to be integrated into the LMS as much as all the various things that we talk about need to be integrated into a learning experience, so that when a student wants to use a tool or they want to use a content asset, it's there when they need it, and that it's clear on how to use it. The second thing I would add is that interoperability is really key. As we look at the world that is now unfolding in front of us, it is unlikely that there's going to be a single piece of hardware, a single way to go in higher education. And so by definition, the integrated learning experience that Sean and Felice are talking about needs to be interoperable, and it needs to be ubiquitous, regardless of what the hardware is that the student's using it and where they want to learn.
Yeah, I just want to continue on that point of interoperability. I mean, you talk about the learning management system, but I just want to bring the focus back into the classroom. It's like, how does the student learn, right? Students learn in different ways. They don't really care how is the information sent back to the teachers and administrators, and then the new lesson plan developed. For them, technology can be a way to present them the content in different formats, in different ways, expanding the current lesson plans. And to make it interoperable, you look at consumer electronics. Why do we get, the best of the best applications? Why do we get the best of the best softwares? Because there's platforms people develop, and then the cream rises to the top. So what's important is to get many development platforms, many low-cost things out into the hands of companies, the people who are creating content, people who are creating a new type of software. And so what we're trying to do is drive very low-cost